Whenever council's ready.
Making an appearance. My name is Jennifer Flint, Brooker and Eckler. I'm here on behalf of the applicant.
And if you could please give your address to the record.
100 South 3rd Street, Columbus, Ohio, 43215.
Thank you. Please proceed.
Could you please state your name, full legal name for the record?
Christopher Alden Leftwich.
You are being handed a document marked applicant exhibit 20, I believe? 20?
That's the next number out.
Thank you.
Here it is.
You can take a look at exhibit 20. You recognize that document?
I do.
What is exhibit 20?
It is my written direct testimony.
Do you have any corrections to exhibit 20?
No.
Your Honors, I move for admission of exhibit 20 pending cross-examination, and I tender Mr. Leftwich for any cross-examination.
Thank you. Mr. Van Clay.
Thank you, Your Honor. You are here to testify about bats, correct?
Yes.
Are bats important in the environment?
Yes.
What importance do they have to the environment?
Well, they're part of an ecosystem. They are predators of insects. So if you want to put in terms of human benefits, it's usually looked at as insect predators.
Okay. With respect to eating insects, how does that benefit humans?
Probably the easiest way to attribute it to human benefits is pest control.
Those pests being insects that the bats eat,
Correct.
and that's important to the farmers, correct?
I've read documents that say yes.
In fact, the bats eat some of the insects that otherwise would be eating the farmer's crops, correct?
Yes.
Have you seen any estimates as to the dollar value that a population of bats will
Objection.
provide?
One moment.
Objection, this is not relevant to the purpose of his testimony.
I haven't even finished the question yet.
Go ahead and proceed with your question.
Okay. Have you seen any estimates as to, any estimates that put a dollar value on the benefits to farmers by virtue of the fact that the bats were eating insects that otherwise would eat the farmer's crops?
Yes.
Objection. This is not relevant to Mr. Leftwich's testimony.
Well, I'm not limited to the confines of Mr. Leftwich's testimony. I'm only limited to the boundaries of what's relevant to the case. And this case involves economics to a very large degree. The applicant has filed an entire report on the economic benefits of the project, and this is relevant to that information because it shows that there may be an economic detriment from the turbines if bats are destroyed that otherwise would aid the farmers. Plus, it's relevant to the factors in Revised Code 4906.10, which state that the board is to weigh the impacts on humans and the environment from the action that's being considered in the application.
Your Honors, my objection relates to the fact that there was already, the applicant already submitted a witness on economics. It was Jane Rice, who testified yesterday. Mr. Leftwich's written direct testimony also states in response to question number 5 what the purpose of his testimony is, and it does not relate to economics in relation to bats.
Well, Your Honor, I'm not limited to the scope of Mr. Leftwich's direct testimony. I've never heard an objection of that nature ever upheld before in any proceeding I've been involved with. With regard to the objection that Ms. Rice was here to testify about economics, Ms. Rice also testified that she didn't look at the negative economic effects of the project. She only looked at the positive effects. And this is a witness that knows the subject matter. He knows that bats benefit not only the environment, but they benefit the economic welfare of the farmers in the area, and it's directly relevant to this case.
I object to that iteration of Mr. Leftwich's knowledge.
At this point in time, Mr. Van Clay, if you could first lay a foundation as to this witness's studies with respect to the bats and any adverse impact that may result in, and then we'll go from there.
Okay. Wind turbines can kill bats, correct?
Yes.
Okay. How does that happen?
It's a couple different ways. One is direct collision, and there's also another aspect called barotrauma, which I'm not super, an expert on. That has to do with pressure changes that are potentially killing bats.
By barotrauma, you generally mean air pressure inside the bat basically explodes the bat.
I don't know about exploding, but my knowledge is that barotrauma is thought to be a cause of bat deaths.
Do you know what barotrauma is?
Changes in pressure associated with the turbines and having an additional effect on, I'm assuming, the bat's lungs.
There's pressure that builds up inside the bat.
Don't know. I don't know a lot about it.
So when a bat strikes a turbine, what physically happens to the bat?
I'm not sure how to answer that.
Well, does it cause internal injuries to the bat?
I don't know.
Do bats pollinate plants?
There are pollinators, some, yes.
Are there species of bats in Ohio that pollinate plants?
Not sure.
Do bats eat mosquitoes?
Yes, some do.
So now that we've established that wind turbines can kill bats, let's talk a little bit about the effect of that action on the public. You've already mentioned that bats eat insects that otherwise would eat the farmer's crops. Are you aware of any studies that put a dollar value on that function?
Not specifically.
You know that there are such studies, though, that exist?
I have seen information, but I've not reviewed a study specifically about that.
Did you do any of the field work to look for bats in the Republic Wind project area?
Can you clarify if you mean me personally?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Right. You have a list of the bat studies that you are sponsoring, and it looks like the list starts on page 3 of your testimony. Let's go back to, let's just start with page 2, answer 6. You have a survey mentioned there that occurred from July 23 to 31, 2015. And then you have a couple of other surveys listed in the rest of the answer to answer 6. Are those studies that are described in answer 6 also listed in answer 7? Or is that a separate list?
Same list. They are in question 7, yes.
Okay, so question or answer 7 has a complete list of all of the bat studies that you believe are pertinent to this project?
All the bat studies I'm aware of, yes.
Okay. All right, well, let's look a little bit more at that list then. For which of the studies listed in answer 7 did you personally do any field work?
The third bullet, the summer 2015 bat surveys. And I believe I was also in the field for the 2016. And then also for the 2015, 2016, so the last 3 bullets. To the best of my knowledge, I was there.
During your field work for any of these surveys, did you see any bald eagles?
No.
But you weren't specifically looking for bald eagles, correct?
Correct.
Was most of the field work that you did performed at night? That is, during hours of darkness?
Could you clarify most?
Well, give me a relative percentage, if you can, between the time you were doing field work for these studies in darkness and the time that you were doing it during daytime hours.
I'm not sure I can do that. I don't know, there's both daytime and nighttime.
With respect to the first study, which is labeled Tetra Tech Bat Acoustic Monitoring Survey Report, that study was performed in 2011, correct?
Yes.
And that study, did that study involve any mist netting?
No.
Okay, so it only involved acoustic monitoring?
Correct.
And in the acoustic monitoring that was performed, that was done for the purpose of recording the calls of bats? Is that right?
Yes.
Why did you do that, or why was that done?
There is part of ODNR's request was to conduct acoustic surveys at Met Tower. That's
Okay.
why it was done.
And at how many Met Towers were these recorders installed?
One,
Okay. And where was that Met Tower located?
I don't have a specific location. We can look it up in the report, but I don't have it memorized.
Yeah. Are you familiar with the present-day boundaries of the project area as they have been designated by Republic Wind?
I have seen a figure, yes.
Okay. Do you know whether the current layout for turbines is the same today as it was during the time that the Tetra Tech study was done in 2011?
Based on the figure that is in that report, are you talking about can you clarify between the project boundary or the turbines?
The project area.
Project area.
Yeah.
Based on the report boundary and the boundary that I was recently shown, I didn't go to the level of discerning whether or not the boundary looked different.
Okay. Are you aware that the boundaries of the project area have gone through a number of configurations since 2011?
Only from what I can see in the 2011 report, and compare those to the 2015, 2016 studies that we did.
Oh, okay.
And
So have you seen a sketch or a map of the project area as it existed in 2015?
yes, it's in the report.
Okay. Do you know whether the boundaries of that project area have changed since then?
Again, I looked at it and it appeared to be different.
Okay. Now, do you know whether the location of the Met Tower is contained within the boundaries of the current project area?
I do not know.
What is used to record the bat calls for acoustics monitoring? What kind of recording device?
There's a couple of different models and different companies that manufacture them. There's Tiddly, who
Yeah.
makes the.
I don't really want to know the brands, I just mean what type. Is it a basic tape recorder or is it something else?
It's a recorder, it's this big.
Okay. It's just a simple tape recorder?
It records ultrasound. I don't know if it's simple, but it's an electronic device that records ultrasound that's produced by bats
Okay.
when they're flying.
Over what period of territory is that device able to pick up the sounds of bats calling?
It varies. It can depend on environmental conditions. It can depend on humidity. It can affect the way sound travels. I'm not a sound expert, but I know there are multiple variables, atmospheric variables that can affect how far these detectors can detect bats. How loud the bat is. Some bats are loud, quote unquote loud, with their ultrasound. Some are very soft, called whisper bats. So it depends on the bats, and it depends on a lot of atmospheric conditions, but I don't know exactly how far.
Do you know a general range of distance that can be, in which bat calls can be recorded by such a device?
I personally don't, but I believe in the report it states, I think some controls they did to set some settings and sensitivities of the detectors. I believe there's some numbers in the report.
Okay. Do you know what the meteorological conditions were during the time that these acoustic surveys were being run?
No.
Are these, were these acoustic surveys run both day and night or just at night?
I believe the report says they are programmed to come on a period of time before sunset and continue for a period of time after before sunset to after sunrise.
Do you know how many nights on which the recording devices at this location were turned on to record the bat sounds?
Can we look at the report?
Sure.
It's right in there.
Yeah.
I believe it's 245. but-
Okay, go ahead.
And just for our reference purposes, there is the report in the application.
Which exhibit are we